I could really get used to this weather. It's just been gorgeous. We had a beautiful weekend and a beautiful start to this week. I've got a lot of projects to get going, and I wanted to show you what I'm starting now. Let's get to it. If you eat out, these Panda Express bowls, this is actually for like the bowl, the small meal. The larger ones come with paper. But if you get the bowl, this is perfect to use for starting some seeds. I like that it's a little bit deeper and that it has a really good clear top. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in some cocoa coir into this, and we are going to be planting some Sugar Rush peppers from Baker Creek. Nice. So this is looking really good. This is just it's not peat moss, it's cocoa coir. It's pretty moist. I'm going to actually put more water on it when I go to plant. This does not have any drainage holes, and this is not like the forever space for the pepper seeds, but this is how I'm going to start them. And I do want some space because I want, when the seeds sprout, I want there to be space between where they sprout and the plastic. Once they sprout, I'll remove the lid. I'm only going to use the lid until my seeds germinate. So here are my Sugar Rush peach seeds, and on here it does say that we're starting them 8 to 12 weeks before the last frost date. So now is a good time to start these pepper seeds inside. I will be placing this on a heat mat when I'm done. So Baker Creek was really generous on the seed packet because it's supposed to be a minimum seed count of 25 seeds, and I paid $4 for the packet. I have 23 seeds still in the packet. I didn't count them out purposefully. I just took some out and then I counted what was left inside the pouch. And I said, okay, I'm going to not put all my eggs in one basket in case I mess up on this. I want to make sure I have some seeds that I can plant later. Whatever seeds, I'm sure that I'm going to have a really good germination rate. I'll tell you what that is later. But whatever plants I don't end up needing, I'm going to sell them at a plant sale that my friend and I are having. And I might give a few to relatives or something. But I have a lot of seeds here. Let's see how many I have. I'm actually going to plant them closer than you really should, but I'm limited on space on my heat mat. And I've had no problem with this at all because peppers grow so slowly, and they don't seem to get all tangled like a lot of other plants do. So I'm going to plant this pretty densely. Let's see how it goes. Now I'm going to plant them. Now on the seed packets, it will always say how deep to plant them. The package says to plant it 1/4 inch deep. And that's about right. I basically, unless you want to memorize every seed packet all the time, my rule of thumb is I plant the seeds about as deep as they are big. That's what I do all the time, and I've had no problems. The exception would be with very fine, tiny little seeds that might need to be surface sown. And I'll show you another video on that when I do another plant that has seeds that are so tiny. But for all other seeds, I plant them as deep as they are big. So I went ahead and placed all the seeds on the top of the soil, and I counted out that there's 29 seeds in here. So I have 29 here and 23 in the packet still. So Baker Creek basically gave me double the amount of seeds, which is really nice. It's not usually that much more, maybe a few more. So I was really happy with that. So now what I'm going to do, and I could just push it down, but I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on top. And this is really light. And then I'm going to moisten it. It's already a little bit moist, but it's not moist enough. I don't want it soaking wet because it doesn't have any drainage, right? No drainage. So now I'm going to kind of press it down. And if you noticed, I wasn't putting any really close to the edges. What I found in my many years of doing this is that the seeds that are on the edges, those plants will sprout, but they tend to really struggle because they are a lot warmer. They get too hot. So I don't like to plant really close to the edge Maybe sprinkle a bit more here. All right, let's go ahead and moisten this. Just a little spritz ball would be perfect, but I left mine inside. So I am using the hose, so I just put it on a dribble. The soil is moist enough, and when I put the lid on, it's going to trap all the moisture, so it has nowhere to go. And when it gets warm and the moisture tries to evaporate, it's going to get stuck and it's going to fall right back down into the soil again. And the neat thing about that is you can flick the lid, just flick the lid, and the water that's on the top of the lid is going to fall back into the container. With this particular one, I didn't notice it, but it does dip down on the sides here. So those, as soon as I start to see them sprouting, I'm going to pull this off. If you're using a container like this, you want to plant like in the middle here so that they have space. You don't want them to sprout and then come into contact with the plastic. When they do that, they do start to rot. So you want to have like a little dome. So when I start to see the first signs of sprouting, that's when I'm going to pop this off. It can take 14 days for peppers to sprout, but usually I get them closer to 7 to 10 days, especially if I'm using a heat mat, which I will be. This is a very small container, so it doesn't take up very much space, but I already have like 29 seeds in there. Don't count your peppers before they sprout, but that's a lot of peppers in a very small space. That buys me time, so I can transplant them when they size up on me. So when they're pretty, like a good size, maybe a couple inches big, that's when I'm going to transplant them into their own individual pots. And yeah, so that's how I'm going to do my peppers. I have a lot more peppers to start, but this is the one I'm doing today. I decided to make it into like manageable chunks so that I don't get too overwhelmed. While I'm over here, this is the bucket of contorted willow cuttings that I did another video on. I just wanted to show you that it's working. You can see the roots forming on the cutting, and this one's and this is new growth right there. So this is just a contorted, and there's actually more roots right underneath it. So this is just contorted willow cuttings that I got from somebody who had pruned their tree. That's a really great way to get free plants. Look at this. This is new growth. Okay. So let's see, are there roots yet? Oh my gosh. So it's not focusing very well, but I don't see new roots yet, but I do see new growth. So it does look like the thicker pieces are rooting faster, but this is becoming like a brine of hormones. So willows actually have a hormone that helps plants to root, including themselves. So after I root these, I can reuse this water and use it as a DIY rooting hormone, because the water in here is going to have the hormones that they're letting out that say it's time for you to produce roots. Look at that. And you saw in a previous video where I planted like 15 elderberry trees. I apologize for the city noise. That's what it's like living in an urban area, you know that. So I did show you a previous video where I transplanted the little elderberry trees that I had been growing actually for many months in a bucket just like this. It does start to get murky after a while, and that doesn't really hurt anything. So don't be worried about that. Just make sure that you don't get mold. Okay, some plants like to have like a humidity dome around them. I've done some videos about that on starting plants like longevity spinach and many other things, and so many different ways, DIY ways to make a humidity dome. Willow, elderberry, figs, they really are the easiest of all to root, and you don't need a humidity dome. You also don't need a humidity dome for longevity spinach. I did it in a video just to demonstrate, but you don't actually need it for those. I really do think it helps with mulberries. I've noticed that they really do like more humidity, and if you don't have them in a humid environment, they do tend to die off. So with Willow. Willow are the absolute easiest to propagate via cuttings. If you don't have willows and you have a neighbor who's pruning, ask them for their cuttings, and you want to get them fresh. Okay, you want to get them fresh so that you can get pieces that are going to actually really grow. And you don't have to even put them in water. You could just stick them in the... I just didn't have like 100 pots ready. I'm like, I have one bucket that's ready to put water in, and I could put 100 plants in here. So, but you can plant them directly into the soil. You just come in at an angle. You can scratch them if you want to. You can see here, it wasn't necessary. They have not been scratched. Barely scratched one part on the end there. It's not necessary for these. For some it is, but not for these. So I'm really happy with this, and I'm seeing a lot of progress. On some of the smaller cuttings, I did make some really small cuttings and put them into a couple pots, and you can see that there is green growth. There's some weeds, don't mind those, but there is green growth on them. Now I don't want them to flower. Once I see flowers, I'm going to pop them off because I want the energy to go into the roots. So that is one thing to know, is that if it's flowering, you want to take off the flowers so the energy goes into making the roots. So these are all willow cuttings, and it seems like some of them are making it. Look at that. I see growth right there too. Very good. So I got these small little floral vases off of Temu or whatever it's called, and one thing I'm going to use it for is I'm going to put water in it, and then I'm going to stick cuttings in here to root them. But what I was thinking is, when I go to take them out, the roots are going to probably get ripped off. So I'm going to cut a slit in the side, and I'll show you what that would be like. So I just cut from the center out to the edge, and I'm going to pop this back on and see if it still stays nice and snug. Okay, so this should work. Now it's not going to stay as snug because I cut it, but my idea is that this will still hold it in place. If I put a cutting in here, then it will still stand up straight. But then when I go to take out the cutting to plant it, I won't have to rip off the roots. See that? So that is my plan with these. And I've got some Zabrina and other houseplants I'll be using these for. In one of these little Dollar Tree water cups, I can fit 8 of these little Temu vases, and these little floral vases anyhow, and each one will have their individual little bit of water and their individual little plant, and that's because I plan on selling some very frugally, and then when someone buys one, I can give them the whole little thing, or if I'm giving one away as a gift, or also for my students. So then they'll have that, and they won't have to worry about damaging the roots on the way home, and then they can just plant it in their little pot or whatever. So I'm going to put some water in here and put in some cuttings too. You can see I put a couple different kinds of houseplants in here, and each one has its own individual, it's almost like a test tube, but these are little floral tubes. And so I've got a couple different kinds. There's 8 plants in here now, and I've had almost 100% success rate rooting plants this way. So this can go anywhere now, on a shelf, whatever, until it roots. So super simple. And I really think that having the little slice on the side is going to be key so it doesn't tear off all the roots. I hope you enjoyed seeing just a DIY hack on reusing upcycled to-go containers for making little mini greenhouses to start your pepper plants. And I hope that you'll enjoy growing Sugar Rush peach peppers from Baker Creek. They seem phenomenal. I tried growing them last year, but I got too busy and I had a little bit of oopsies. So I'm trying it again, and I've seen a lot of people having wonderful success with it and just having heaps and heaps of a harvest. So that's gonna be really fun. I also hope that you enjoyed seeing the Willow update on the rooting, and also the little hack on using the Temu, whatever they're called, those little florist vases or Yeah, I think that's what I call it. It's like a little florist vase. They're for like singular flowers, and how you can cut the end of it so that if you're rooting something in that, when you take it out and take the plastic off, it doesn't rip off all those little baby roots. All right, everybody. This was kind of an eventful little short episode of mix match topics, and it's been fun. God bless you all, and remember to be good, be sweet, and grow a garden if you want to eat. I'll see you next time.